to the Brand New Actor podcast. My name is Deanna Gamboa, your host, and today's episode 2, is entitled Name Brand, in which we will delve into branding yourself as an actor and making you unique to casting. So let's get into it. So, first things first, you need to ask yourself the important question. Who are you? What makes you you? And I know this goes beyond being an actor question and even so like a philosophical question, but the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In fact, one of my assignments in my freshman acting BFA program was to write a 10-page paper. That's right, 10-page paper on this very question of who am I? And I guess it was the most tedious process, but it was very rewarding. And it really revealed a lot about myself that I didn't think about, and also helped me to develop the kind of characters that I like to play and the brand that I represent. So I challenge you to write a 10-page paper about who am I. I'm just kidding. You don't have to write a 10-page paper, but just start to soul search within yourself. Who are you as a person? And interestingly, if I were to reread this paper that I wrote my freshman year of college, like years later, I probably wouldn't recognize the girl that was writing that, because we're complicated human beings. We're always learning and evolving and changing. So it's natural that maybe my brand has altered or changed a bit. And maybe you're here thinking, why don't you just do the 10-page paper of who am I? And you know what? Maybe I will. And I also challenge you to do the same. Let's just say that you're still not sure about how to define yourself. You can ask for help. Who do others say you are? What makes you you? Ask them. You can ask your family, but I mostly encourage that you ask not only your family, but your friends and your significant other. Why? Your family is not chosen. Your family is given, and they will unconditionally love you and maybe see you a little more often. So they're just used to having you around and they're not very observant, versus a friend or a significant other. They met you later on in your life and they love you because of who you are, the traits and personality that you acquire. So they can tell you more about who you are and why they love you. And another thing that I suggest is that you ask a distant friend or acquaintance. That's kind of bizarre, right? They really probably don't even notice you, you think. What do they think about you? What do people think about you? Don't you ever wonder? Once I did this social media trend, and maybe you're familiar with it. It's like this. Deanna isn't Deanna without blank. So I put it on my story and I got typical responses, of course. Deanna isn't Deanna without coffee. Duh. Specifically Starbucks. Deanna isn't Deanna without singing or theater or God. These are all valid, very transparent things that I'm always, portraying on my social media. So people know me for these things. But what are the things that people know you for without you even thinking about it? Let me explain. One specific response surprised me very much. They said, Deanna isn't Deanna without her eye roll. What are they talking about? My eye roll? Eye roll? I sure do. I started looking back to some selfies on my story, and it was always just like that. So I never noticed that I did a notorious eye roll. It is the notorious Deanna eye roll. Just smiling and my eyes up like this instead of a dookie face, I guess. But whatever. So it was my little quirky signature on social media. And someone that isn't my best friend, an acquaintance, someone that I know, pointed it out. So you never know what people are thinking of you. You just don't know. So just try it. I dare you. Just put on your story. Blank isn't blank without what? And they'll fill in the blank. And you're going to be surprised by their responses. Some will be obvious, but like I said, some may shock you. And it's going to help you discover your name brand. Now, most actors have been told to be careful of typecast. And there's like this stigma of typecasting. But I want to offer a contrary view. And this is most appealing to the brand new actor, the one that's just starting their career. Because I know after many years of being typecast, it can be exhausting and difficult to break out and branch out to do other roles. I get it. But initially, when you're just starting your career, I don't think it's such a bad thing to be typecast. I mean, think about it. You're doing a very good job at one role and you're building your career. People are getting to know your name, getting to know you, and you can social network and build connections so that eventually you can break out of that typecast and be considered for other roles. But once you get that good footing, then you can branch out. That's a problem for later, if you get what I mean. It's like getting one foot in the door is the most important. If you think about like Disney stars like Zac Efron, for instance, he was cast as Troy Bolton in High School Musical, my crush as a child. And then he was in 17 again. We see him a little more mature, but still playing that good guy, that handsome, charming, young leading man. But then, out of nowhere, he plays Ted Bundy. And now he becomes the bad guy. And people are like shocked because he's going against the grain, going against his type finally. At least the type that they gave him. And let me tell you something. If you do not present to casting who you are, the type of characters you can play, they're going to put you in a box. So better put yourself in front of casting, show them who you are, so they don't put you in a box that you're going to be stuck in for a long time. You'd rather at least be in a type that you like to play, that you most identify with, until it's time for you to evolve and mature. I feel like, if anything, for instance, I like to play the quirky comedic supporting character. Just love it. But I think eventually that can grow into something like a more eccentric character. So I can go from playing, now that I'm young, like New Girl, the show New Girl. Think of that quirky character, comedic, quirky, young, spunky, to then playing something more eccentric. I feel like that brand can evolve into something more and play maybe something like something that I probably dream of as being someone like Helena Bonham Carter, playing very eccentric roles. Think of Queen of Hearts, for instance. So what am I trying to say with all this? You are a versatile actor, but it's okay to start with being typecast to make your way into the door and finally then break out of your typecast. So don't be afraid of being typecast. But you're the one that needs to identify what it is that you want them to typecast you as. It's the job of the actor to do that, not casting. In this case, you need to establish what I like to call a name brand. Any good business has a name brand. They have a mission statement, a logo that you can identify. Think about it. When you see a logo with a siren in green, you automatically know it's Starbucks without having to read the name. Or if you see an apple, you know it's the Apple logo. But not just with logos, slogans, and mission statements. I'm sure you can finish this sentence. America runs on blank. Duncan. If you didn't get that, sorry. But I'm sure there are other slogans that you can finish the sentence of that the general population has been accustomed to hearing, which is very effective. So you get the gist. In the same way, your name brand should reflect in the audition room your signature. Do you know how many girls go to auditions that look just like me? Brown curly hair, Hispanic, specifically they're Cuban, just like me. I mean, they look just like me. There's a ton of them, especially in Miami. So I have to think about what can make me stand out. What is going to make me different from the rest? My name brand, your name brand, will reflect this in the audition room. And sometimes this just takes time. You may not know exactly what your name brand is exactly yet, but once you start auditioning and you see what castings you're getting, you'll start to develop this name brand and better prepare for these auditions. But again, don't wait for casting to tell you your name brand. Show them who you are. Or perhaps you're someone in the game that's been here for a long time coming and you're just not booking any jobs. I suggest that it's time for rebranding. And that's okay. You're evolving. You're a human being. If you know the brand Stanley, the Stanley Cups that went viral in 2021, did you know that they were initially targeting men? They wanted men to use the Stanley Cups for work, hiking, any other outdoor activities. It's durable, very manly looking. And then what happened? They weren't getting any results, so they rebranded. And in 2021, they were like viral on TikTok. Every girl had one, including me. And then what happened? Once all the women started buying the Stanley Cups, all the boyfriends and husbands started drinking out of the Stanley Cups and ended up buying their very own Stanley Cup, meaning that, ironically, Stanley hit their initial targeted audience, which was men. Isn't that crazy? I find it crazy. It's very interesting how that all happened. And an applause for Stanley Cup because that was genius. So in the same way, maybe rebranding yourself, you can reach your artistic goals and even more than you can even imagine. Let's delve into specific characters you can play through the use of archetypes. A character archetype is the core traits, values, and decisions, the decision-making patterns of a particular type of person. So think the anti-hero, the villain, the sidekick, femme fatale, damsel in distress, the princess, the jock, rebel. Those are just to name a few. And if you want the perfect example of these like character tropes or archetypes, just check out The Breakfast Club. It's the perfect example. And think of your very favorite shows and movies. Think of characters you love to play. What makes you gravitate towards them? For instance, I love Jane the Virgin, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Marvelous Maisel, just to name a few. And typically when I do theater auditions, I like serial comical monologues. Now, what do I love about them? Well, as I said, I always love to play the quirky comedic character. That's the way that I've identified my kind of like persona name brand. But some characters are not necessarily comedic. So what is it about those characters and the comedic characters that I play that are quirky all have in common? So I've had to delve deeper. And I've noticed that I like to play passionate, idealistic dreamers. And yes, they're quirky, but they're not just comedic or dramatic. They're passionate, idealistic, dreamers. And they're quirky. So now it's time for you to create a name brand with your artistic statement and generate a list of archetypes or character roles that you see yourself playing. Next, your logo. Okay, not your literal logo, but your signature. The thing that makes you stand out. Maybe you decide to have brand colors in which you wear specific colors to auditions and pick colors that look best on you, your skin tone, look and all that, okay? And colors that really reflect your brand. Many businesses leverage color for their promotions. For instance, the color red is said to make you hungry. So guess what? Most fast food restaurants like KFC and McDonald's use red. Green makes you think of wealth. So Starbucks, it's elite coffee, I guess. Or even banks like TD Bank or First Bank, they're green. Blue is supposedly to radiate trust and reliability, which is why you think of Blue Cross and some social media as well, Facebook, I guess they're reliable. And the list goes on and on and on. So for a while, I was wearing mustard yellow as I shot in my headshot, and it just gave off like this warm, quirky self when going into the audition room. And now that I seem to want to branch out because I'm getting older and I don't want to play too young, I have shifted into wearing red. And red makes you think of love. It makes you think of passion, which is what I was talking about, that I want to evoke this sort of brand of being passionate, idealistic, dreamer. So red gives that off. Purple even is very dreamy, passionate color. It also kind of gives off Latina with red, so I'm trying to say something with my brand, with the clothes that I'm wearing. Another signature is your bold choices by using unique little quirks that people know you by, like my famous eye roll, for instance, that I had no idea of. And I realized recently I did an audition for a commercial, and I said to myself, well, they're going to see like a bazillion of these same auditions, same task. But I'll tell you something. That commercial was definitely going to be different than the rest, the audition at least, because I had my famous eye roll in there. I put my signature in there somehow. So that's what you want to do. Well, that's the end of episode 2 of the Brand New Actor Name Brand. So be sure to share with an actor friend or a colleague. Also, tune into episode 3 entitled Shopping Your Acting Market, in which we will delve into the different acting markets and deciding which is best suited for you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, be sure to check out episode 1, where we talk briefly about acting markets. And make sure you're notified when episode 3 is coming out by following the social media account at The Brand New Actor on Instagram, so you can be the first to know when the episode comes out. And we'll delve more into acting markets. See you then.